This video is about rape culture and everything wrong with it. The topic of sexual assault has been prevalent in the news lately, starting in Hollywood with the mounting allegations against Kevin Spacey and Harvey Weinstein. These two cases and the responses from both the media and the public have presented many issues with how we talk about sexual assault. While Kevin Spacey rightfully came under fire after Anthony Rapp's allegations against him, it took dozens of women to come forward about Harvey Weinstein before he was considered a serious threat. Both sets of victims kept quiet for years and never reported the incidents because the perpetrators were so powerful that they feared for their own career if they were to tell the truth. Although both Spacey and Weinstein are now seeking professional help, their unwillingness to recognize and change their ways before a public outcry illustrates the inability for perpetrators to feel responsible for their actions. All of these observations can be summed up in a couple of words: rape culture. While the news of Hollywood rape culture may be news to some, this is not a new idea to society, and harmful ideas have been a part of our culture for centuries. Rape culture is perpetuated in our society through conscious and subconscious actions, primarily by men, and we all have a responsibility to stop it. In this video, I will define rape culture and give evidence of rape culture a play. Next, I'll give the myths and stereotypes associated with sexual assault. Following that, I'll explain how rape culture affects everyone and detail some of its many consequences. And lastly, I'll provide some ways that you can help shut down the negative mindsets and behaviors that are relevant to rape culture. Before diving into the factors that contribute to rape culture, there must be a mutual understanding of what rape culture is and isn't. Up here is a definition of rape culture. While there are a whole slew of attitudes and practices that contribute to rape culture, I'll give a few specific examples. Victim blaming illustrates the tendency for people to focus on what the victim was wearing or doing at the time of the incident, suggesting they deserved it rather than asking why the perpetrator decided to commit a violent crime. Hosting workshops for women to learn how to avoid being raped rather than explaining the importance of consent to men implies that women can control whether or not they were raped and removes responsibility from the perpetrator. The idea that men who are raped by men can't come forward because any sexual assault survivor by another male is obviously gay is a very harmful stereotype. Joking about any kind of rape, even in prison for those who deserve it, trivializes the issue of rape and perpetuates the false idea that certain forms of rape are acceptable. The overall commodification of women's bodies, like they are inherently sexual objects, and that men are entitled to receiving sexual attention from women since he is perceived as more powerful and deserving. Some of these attitudes and practices are drawn from incorrect information or rumors rather than reputable research. There are many myths and stereotypes surrounding rape culture that need to be debunked. A typical scenario imagined when people think of rape is a strange man in the dark night hunting for a woman to sexually assault. Our society as a whole distinguishes rape as a separate criminal act, as opposed to a crime directly associated with sexual violence against women. According to RAINN, every 7 in 10 rapes are committed by someone known to the victim, more commonly acquaintances, current or former romantic partners, or people that the victim cannot even remember. This idea contrasts the common teaching of stranger danger and the cinematic trope of the crazy guy popping out of the bushes at night. With regards to race, the idea that black males are inherently more dangerous than white males, and that black females are sexually voracious in comparison to sexually frigid white females are stereotypes still perpetuated today. These stereotypes can be traced back to the post-Reconstruction era when slavery and lynching were common practice. Black males were falsely accused of raping white women and were then lynched. This was a method used by white men to rid the political and economic threats that black men posed to white supremacy as the black male suffrage movement began. Similarly, black females were stereotyped in a stark contrast to the idea of white women as non-sexual beings. As Hall notes, the fear of the female sexuality was projected onto black women, condoning the systematic rape of black women by white men. Referring back to RAINN's statistics on sexual assault, the vast majority of perpetrators are white males at 57%, compared to 27% black males. Instead of telling people not to dress a certain way and prepare to fight the scary black man on the street corner, we should be focusing on telling men not to assault their partners or acquaintances. Another common misconception about rape culture is that it is only relevant to rapists and sexual assault survivors. However, rape culture is relevant to everyone in our society. As the authors of Transforming a Rape Culture wrote, every man, woman, and child is negatively affected by living in a rape culture in which children, females, and some males are perceived as sexual prey. The first consequence of rape culture is that perpetrators get ahead and survivors are held back, whether in their lives, careers, or other pursuits. RAINN reports that 84% of survivors that were victimized by an intimate partner experienced professional or emotional issues, including severe distress and increased problems at work or school. These long-term effects also hold true for those victimized by a family member, close friend, or acquaintance. As an example, Crystal Castle's member Alice Glass recently came forward regarding her harrowing history of sexual violence perpetrated by a male band member, Ethan Kath. Glass had left the group 3 years prior, attributing her decision to a multitude multitude of reasons, both professional and personal, since she was afraid of ruining her chance at a new solo career if she came forward with the allegations at that time. Although Glass had done nothing wrong, she had to leave her career as a part of an incredibly successful musical duo because of the despicable actions of her partner. Another awful trend that rape culture implies is that the burden is on women to not get raped, rather than on men to not rape. As Ellen Pearson notes in her article on rape culture, the solution suggested by the media is avoidance. The idea of victim blaming is unique to sexual assault, as no one tends to question the fault and vulnerability of victims of other violent crimes. Could you imagine if you told someone about how your apartment was attacked by an armed robber the other night, and their immediate response was to frown and ask you about your door locks, types of glass your windows are made of, and the paint color of your house, as if you were responsible for being targeted? While it is important for everyone to know what to do in a dangerous situation, the concept of blaming the victim is ridiculous and continues to allow perpetrators to deflect responsibility of their actions. Now that you hopefully have a better idea of what constitutes rape culture and how it affects everyone, here are a few easy things you can do to help stop the spread of rape culture. No, I'm not going to tell you to go buy pepper spray and use the buddy system to avoid being raped. I'm going to ask a very simple task that I think we can all handle. Please don't sexually assault anyone. Make sure there's clear consent when you're engaging in sexual activity with another person. Speak up when you hear something that doesn't sit right. If you're sitting with a group of friends and one of them makes a joke about rape or a comment about their hookup that gives you an uneasy feeling, say something. It can be challenging to talk about this subject with your friends, but if no one speaks up on the most basic of levels, people will continue to assume that what they're saying or doing is okay. Don't doubt survivors of sexual assault. It takes immense courage for people to share their trauma with anyone, and it may take them years before they can utter the words out loud, if they ever do. There is little more devastating than a survivor coming forward and being shot down by disbelief, skepticism, and even shifting blame. Of course, survivors do not owe anyone their story, and their experience is equally valid either way. Don't push for details if they don't feel comfortable sharing, just be there for them. In conclusion, I hope this video has given you a better idea of what rape culture is, the attitudes and practices that perpetuate it, and what you can do on an individual level to promote a healthier culture surrounding sex. If we all take a more active role in preventing the spread of rape culture, we will be one step closer to ending sexual violence.